Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 761. Now, in today's episode, we're talking about the hidden effects of anxiety. Now, there's a reason as to why we must know this, because ultimately, we need to get the leverage to our unconscious mind as to why we should be making these changes. Anxiety is horrible. You see, I've felt anxiety, worry, and dread for 18 years of my life. I think I came out of the womb with anxiety and blushing, thinking, oh my goodness, what are people going to think of me? I'm not saying that's true, but I was definitely the shyest child I'd ever known. Anxious, worried, fearful, dread, thinking of the worst scenarios, thinking about what people think of me. And although the experience for a long time was very much of a case of living in anxiety, it wasn't until I discovered the real hidden reasons and the effects of anxieties that made me make that change. So if you're ready to learn about that, if you're ready to be able to figure things out with me, then let's go ahead and do that. But before that, take a moment to listen to this sponsor. It supports the show. Feel free to go through it if you want, if you don't want to, but let's go ahead and get to the ad very, very quickly so we can get into the episode. Are you ready to transform your life in the most amazing way? If so, go ahead and download my free hypnosis app, where you can listen to hundreds of free coaching and hypnosis audios at your convenience on your phone. Create your own hypnosis sessions. That's right, all custom and tailored to your needs. Listen to hundreds of hypnosis sessions. Truly transformational, where you can transform in the day, and also, of course, you can transform as you go to sleep by toggling over the sunshine to the moon, and it will guide you off to sleep effortlessly. And of course, please go ahead and share the love and rate and review the app, because it just means we can help and support more people in the world, and we need it so much right now. You make the difference by leaving a review. Just go to your app store, type in Hypnosis with Joseph Clough, and leave your review. I appreciate you, and thank you for listening to this message. Okay, so with that done, let's dive into this episode. So, as I was saying before the ad break, it is so important to understand the hidden effects of anxiety. And the reason being is, we live, although because of society and all those types of things, like we kind of live in the future anxieties of what could happen, we're programmed by our past, so we reflect on all the bad things that may have happened in our life. On the other hand, we do still live in the now. We might be preoccupied in the mind of the past and the future, but we still have things to do every single day. Get up in the morning, get changed, do all those things. Go to work. Maybe you have a certain role as a father, as a mother, as a sibling. All the different things that we may have to do throughout the day that keeps us occupied. But the thing is, the real question is, when we just think about the present moment living, time flies by. And we don't really think about the consequential experiences of not changing. We think, yeah, I feel anxiety in this moment. I feel anxiety and fear and dread and the imposter syndrome, and it doesn't feel very good. And because we're so preoccupied with the present experience, the present emotions that we feel when we're experiencing the anxiety, we can begin to forget the real situation. I'm telling you right now, maybe a little bit controversial, maybe it won't, but ultimately, if you take the analogy of a smoker for a moment, a smoker will go, I'm going to quit next year, next week, next month, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, all those resolutions. But before we know it, we kind of go through it and we just go, I'll do it next week, next year, and so on. And it's the exact same thing of how we experience anxiety and worry and fear. We think that this is our present experience, I'm going to try to work on it in the future because I haven't got enough time. But the problem is, anxiety is actually occupying within our mind, renting out space that shouldn't be renting out space, and it causes us to lose time. So what I like to do, if I'm really wanting to change, I need to be aware of the hidden causes of a conflict that I may be experiencing. Otherwise, I'm just going to live in the moment thinking that this is an expectation of reality that I must exist within. But this is my existence. I am an anxious person. I experience dread. I don't believe I'm worthy, deserving, and enough. It becomes our identity. It becomes how we view the world around us. And looking through the eyes of anxiety, you're not going to see many good things. But as I said, we usually like having blinkers on, just focusing in that present moment, or just in front of us, like the next day or the next meeting or the next time we've got to do something in the near future. We never really think about the consequential effects in the far future. And it's so important to do that, to leverage the transformation at an unconscious level, because we as humans need reasons to change. If there's no reason to change, then we won't want to do it, even if you feel anxiety. And more importantly, if your unconscious mind doesn't have the reason to change, it won't do it. It will think that this normal way of thinking, of being an imposter or having fear and anxiety, is just normal. That's just how it is. That's how I experience my life. This is who I am. But in reality, that is not who you are. That is just a part of you that you've learned to become accustomed to, that we've assumed as our identity. And it's not true. Anxiety is simply a strategy. It is something that we've acquired over time, a limiting decision at an unconscious level, for the best of intentions, I would say as well. But getting back on track, I want you to consider the consequences of keeping anxiety in your life. Now we can go for the near consequences. How is it affecting our physical body? Is it causing stress and strain on your neurology? Really think about it. There's no point hiding from it. That's what we always do. We kind of put it to one side. But if you're going to leverage the unconscious, be consciously aware, so your unconscious mind can be aware of what's really happening. Is anxiety stressing and straining the system? We know stress breaks the chain of good health. So be conscious of that. And by the way, this is not the most enlightening, most comfortable experience. And a lot of the lesser brave people will just bury these emotions. They'll go, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm just going to put it to one side. But ultimately, it causes us to deal with this for the rest of our life. And that's why it's important to recognize it right here and right now, so you can start doing things about it. Get the leverage, get the reasons as to why anxiety must go. So number one, think about the physical effects of anxiety. Is it stressing our heart? Is it stressing our mind? Is it causing depression? Is it causing us having anxiety thoughts about ourselves? How is it causing us to show up? Right? So the actual action of anxiety, is it causing you to go into, say, a meeting at work and not show up how you would like to? How does that make you feel? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? And of course, it can be a bad thing. How do people respond to that? And by that, I mean, when you have anxiety, you're not communicating in the most powerful way, because 93% of all communication is unconscious. Now that's ridiculously crazy to me, that 7% of our communication, 7%, is the words that we use. But the other remaining percent is our physiology and our tonality. So you can say all the right words like, I am confident. Now my neurology and my tone was pretty confident. By the way, I'm overcoming some kind of throat and congestion issues right now myself. But if in case my voice sounds a little bit funny. But ultimately, when we think about this, about communicating, you could say all the right words with that conviction and feel good about it and have the tonality, and then they understand it. But if you say it, oh, I am confident. And I struggle to even put that lack of confidence in my tone and my physiology, but you get the idea and picture that if you start to communicate through the feeling of anxiety, then you will not communicate effectively. People will recognize that. So then think about the potential missed opportunities. Are people thinking things of us? Can you do the job? And that makes us think, well, am I an imposter? Are we getting the promotion that we want? Or maybe you're in a business and or let's go to another level of the career side. Maybe you need to lead certain people and you're not able to lead those people due to the lack of conviction based on the anxiety. Is it stopping that communication? Is it if you're in your own business and you're trying to communicate, you're trying to sell something, but you don't have the self-value to be able to really sell yourself because of the anxiety and the limiting beliefs about ourselves, that we're missing getting clients? Now, ultimately, this is where it gets even more interesting for me. Because if we take that one analogy in business, if you're not full of conviction and self-certainty in selling something because that's your business, then you're actually being of disservice. Now, what do I mean by disservice? Well, if you solve problems and you're not communicating or you're missing out on those opportunities, that means that person has not got the help they truly desire. Think about that. One of the thoughts I have, and you may think, well, it's egotistical and things like that, but one of the genuine thoughts I have, what will happen if I don't help this person? I really care about that. I do not want people to live another day of anxiety and fear and worry. I'm like, oh my goodness, they need help and I've got the solution. So I'm going to be so certain in my conviction to be able to support them and show them there's another way of living because I know it to be true. I'm so committed to that statement that I want to be able to support them and show them the way of the transformation. Why? Because I've been there. I've experienced the anxiety. I've experienced the imposter syndrome, although that term was not around when I had it. I experienced the beliefs of not being worthy, deserving enough. So I'm so committed. So I begin to think about the consequences of that person not changing. And if you're in that business of helping people or solving things, and you're not confident and certain in your communication, not only are you missing out on business, but that person is still stuck. So it's of disservice to that person and all the other people, how it has an effect on their family if their problems aren't solved. That's down to me. If I have anxiety, I'm causing that to happen in a way, because if I let go of the anxiety, then I can support and love on that person and help them get them to where they want to be. And it's the same thing when it comes to business. Like if you're in a meeting and you're leading something, then people aren't being led because we're anxious. Maybe we're people pleasing, we're doing all the things. That's a disservice to the colleagues, it's a disservice to the boss, it's a disservice to the customers that you may sell within that business. Although you may not be directly communicating as selling, but you're still in a business which has some form of selling. Even in a charity, there's this level that you have to do these things. So think about even the consequences beyond yourself, and that's what I really mean here. Level 1 is the consequences within yourself, how it has an effect on your mind and your body, but also the consequences of having anxiety when it affects other people. And that can go into relationships too. You see, as an example, if we have a lot of anxiety and a lot of self-doubt and a lot of low-level self-belief, and our partner says something like, oh, you look amazing today, and you just deny it and go, look, no, I'm ugly. You don't mean that. Do you know what? That's going to eventually annoy our partner. And after a while, there's two things that can happen. Maybe they're sick and tired because that person's always been giving wonderful compliments and trying to show you how wonderful and brilliant you are. But if we keep getting denied as that person, after all, we kind of give up. After a while, we might go, well, yeah, maybe that is true, because look, I keep on saying it, but if you're rejecting it, it does not make a good fit for a relationship. So that's another level. We can think of the external. Maybe it's for us, if we're single, maybe that's why we're not getting in relationships, because of the anxiety. So think about the missed opportunity there. And if not already, I would be definitely taking time to write down the hidden consequences that you're not really aware of when it comes to anxiety, because it's not just about you and your inner experience. It's about those in your life. Now, this can be one of the most painful ones when I get to speak to people, is maybe, for example, you are a father or a mother or some kind of guardian for some younger person. Now, once again, we may be saying all the right and wonderful things as that guardian or parent, but remember, 93% of communication is unconscious. So you can say the right things with your children, but if they're modeling someone every single day, and you can say, well, you hide it. You don't hide it really. Maybe that's 7%. Even if we increase the percentage that you could do it with 50%, even 90%, if that was even possible, if you're that good at faking it, everyone begins to see through it. So what happens with our children? Now, in my experience of not having children, but having worked with lots of people who do have children, it is a petrifying thought that our children could carry out the same anxiety, limiting belief as an adult, or growing up as a teenager into an adult. We are passing down the same stories by being a model for them. And if you say, look, kids don't model us, you're wrong ultimately. The very first 7 years, according to sociology, is the imprint. Like, we're fresh to the world, so therefore the young child is observing you exactly how you are, even if you're hiding it. The next 7 years in sociology is the modeling aspect. So between 0 and 14, we're being imprinted and we're also modeling. And of course, they're modeling you being the guardian or parental figure. That to me is scary, even if I don't have children, because I would never want my child to go ahead and have the same experience. Maybe what is the consequence of that? Do they not go to maybe college, maybe, even though they wanted to? Maybe they choose a partner who uses them, because, you know, like narcissists and people like that and abusers, they focus on people or look for people who have low self-esteem that allow that to be a reality. You may notice that within yourself. Maybe we have low self-esteem, we've had bad relationships. Now, you would never, for yourself, you might go, well, I can do it myself. It's painful, but I would never want my children to be able to go through that. And we can go further. What happens if it goes down to, say, your future grandchildren? And it goes down further and further and further because we weren't aware of the consequences of the anxiety that we're experiencing. So remember, this is not just about you. Now, when I think about those levels of consequences, and we haven't even got, we'll go there in a little bit. Now think about the missed time that we are missing based on the anxiety we have, the missed opportunity. So there's 2 levels, missed time, missed opportunity. If we go for time first, we have 24 units every single day. Let's say they're an hour, right? 24 hours, we have 24 units in the day. How much time or how many units would you say that you spend on anxiety? And be really honest with yourself. Now, some of those may be like little micro ones, because it might be like, well, just a quarter of a day or a quarter of an hour of that unit, but I do it multiple times. Well, you can add that up. Now, you're not always anxious when you're asleep, but it definitely disturbs your sleep when you're in an anxious state, right? So you can begin to calculate in your mind, how much time are we spending in anxiety, fear, worry, and doubt? Now, if you have an identity complex, and by that I mean a limiting belief of not being worthy or enough or deserving, if we're talking about identity, it means that we feel it most of the time. Beneath the surface, always there. We can cover it up with, say, smoking cigarettes, We can do it with alcohol or drugs or going onto Facebook and YouTube and all those things. We can try to escape it, but it's really there within us still. So calculate how many units you are spending every day. Now calculate, you can do a quick mathematical equation of how many years that you've had this for. For most people, it starts in the very early ages of our life. It could be a significant emotional event in our adulthood as well, but a lot of the time, a lot of our issues are formulated when we're very young because we didn't know anything different. We were modeling our parents, or we were taking on suggestions from teachers or people in our life which represent like teachers or parents, and we took it on as truth. Like, I've got to be perfect, I've got to do everything, or if I was told I was never enough, I assume it to be true because I didn't know otherwise as a child. So when we think about it like that, how many units, how many years have we spent in anxiety? Think about it. Can't hide from it. This should be like a liberating thing as much as an emotional, oh my goodness, I'm spending a lot, because we need to have that wake-up call. Now we've done the present and the past, now think about your future. How many units are you prepared to spend on your future in anxiety, worry, and doubt, and the fear of not being enough or worthy or the imposter? What missed opportunities are there? Is it the career progression? Is it the relationship breakup or missed ones? Is it going to be going all the way to the end of your life? Looking back, and this one scares me in a liberating way, is if I look back, having missed opportunities, having lived in anxiety for most of my life, how do I feel about that? Is there a lot of guilt? A lot of regret? I would say so for me. Now you've got to be aware of the future regret. Why? Because when you go, oh my goodness, this is what could be that one path. If I stay the same, spending those units, having an effect on my health, having it have an effect on my career, having an effect on my business or my relationships or my children, and passing it down for generations to come, I have to go, I'm not prepared to do that. I'm going to circle back for a moment. I said right near the beginning, we experience anxiety in the moment. Remember I said like in the now. And that's easy to deal with in ways. It's not very nice, but that's all we can do. But once we start to widen the gap of the past and the future, and we begin to kind of go at the great level, a greater landscape, a bigger meta perspective, like looking at it all, then we go, do you know what? I need to change today. That should be the fire in our heart that goes, do you know what? I'm more dedicated to change and find the solution to my anxiety and fear because I'm not prepared to keep the same experience. I'm not prepared. And you can go through all the consequences of anxiety in your life because they're always going to be different for everyone. Whether it be family, relationships, health, career, business, and all the ones I even missed. There's plenty out there. Think about those, and then you go, there's no way I'm not changing today. I'm going to put the wheels in motion. I might not know how to do it, but I'm now prepared to go, do you know what? I'm excited to make this change because I need to get out of this anxiety. I'm ready to do whatever it takes. Now, a couple of things could happen with this. Number one, your unconscious mind will start to recognize that pain. It will recognize the problem, the real problem. When it does that, if you have a big enough epiphany at a conscious and unconscious level, it will start to put the wheels in motion to make that change. Why? Because your unconscious mind is there to protect you. Anxiety is trying to protect you. Fear is trying to protect you. The imposter syndrome, so you don't get found out, is trying to protect you. The belief of not being worthy or enough is trying to protect you. Does it ever do it? Not really. It's not the best way of doing it, but it tries to do it. The positive intention So if we break it down, your unconscious mind is always trying to protect you. It's the biology. It is trying to heal you, trying to prepare you, running these habits, all of these things. So when we start to recognize these big consequences, rather just in the moment consequences, your unconscious mind may have a wake-up call and go, I've got enough leverage, enough reason to make that change. Now, it doesn't mean it'll necessarily go straight away, but you now have more leverage for your unconscious mind. A lot of people that I see, by the way, they've seen 10, 20 therapists. Some have seen therapists 3 times a week for the last 25 years. But they don't change despite knowing enough, talking through it, living through it. And there's nothing about counseling or psychotherapy. I really appreciate every form of therapy, but if it's not working right now and it's not changing, to me, it must mean it's an unconscious process that hasn't allowed that to happen yet. For a lot of people, it works perfectly and great, and I love it for that. In fact, a lot of psychotherapists actually refer people to my work. I mean, lots of people email me saying so, like referring to their clients, because it's a great compliment to their therapeutic skill set. And I love unison. I love this holistic way of changing. But if it's not, if you think about it in your mind that you're still not making that change, then the thing you've got to get into is be dedicated to decide that you're going to do whatever it takes. I always believe there's pretty much 3 little traits that you have, which is required, like a requirement, a necessity that you need to be able to really make that change. Now, before we get to that, let's go have another quick break. Are you ready to transform your life in the most amazing way? If so, go ahead and download my free hypnosis app, where you can listen to hundreds of free coaching and hypnosis audios at your convenience on your phone. Create your own hypnosis sessions. That's right, all custom and tailored to your needs. Listen to hundreds of hypnosis sessions. Truly transformational, where you can transform in the day, and also, of course, you can transform as you go to sleep by toggling over the sunshine to the moon, and it will guide you off to sleep effortlessly. And of course, please go ahead and share the love and rate and review the app, because it just means we can help and support more people in the world, and we need it so much right now. You make the difference by leaving a review. Just go to your app store, type in Hypnosis with Joseph Clough, and leave your review. I appreciate you, and thank you for listening to this message. So, welcome back. What are those 3 traits? I guess you're wondering. If you really need to succeed in any endeavor to make the change you want, knowing that you can go from anxiety, fear, worries and doubts, the imposter syndrome, not feeling worthy, deserving, all those things, you need these 3 traits to be able to get to the other side. And to me, the first one is you've got to get yourself to be so dedicated that you go, I'm resourceful. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm ready to empty my cup to fill it up with something new. But you're willing to ask the questions. You're willing to put yourself out there for help. A lot of people have the fear of asking for help, but you cannot live that way. You've got to go, look, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to seek out the solution. I'm going to find the expert who's been there, done it, overcame it to get the shortcut there. I'm willing to go all in on that resourcefulness. Here's the thing, Red. We may not have all the necessary resources, but we need the resourcefulness to be adaptable. That is how we really thrive as people. The adaptability. The law of requisite variety. The person or the system with the most flexibility controls the situation. And that is what we need, that resourcefulness. Now, the second thing I always look for are those who are dedicated just to do the work. Whether it takes, for example, in my program, it's just 3 hours per week at the most for 8 weeks. Are you dedicated to put 3 hours per week into your development for 8 weeks to let go of a lifetime of pain, worry, and anxiety. Now, if you say no to that, or for other person's program, it doesn't matter, right? But if you said no to that, then it means we're not as dedicated to the solution. And that's a hard truth. And it could be other people's programs, other people's systems. I don't really mind what the solution is for you. You got to find one which resonates, or the person who resonates with you. But ultimately, as a framework, if we're not dedicated to change, we're dedicated to remain the same, whether we know it or whether we do it unknowingly. But that's the truth of it. So we need to be resourceful. We need to have that level of dedication. And then the last one, the big one, there's the one I always love, and it's the hardest one for those who have anxiety. It's the hardest one who has the imposter syndrome. It's the hardest one for those who don't believe they're enough or value, worthy, deserving, or capable, or the need to be perfect. And it's for everyone in the whole world, because it's just biology ultimately. But especially for those people who experience the same kind of issues that I used to, and this is it. Most people make decisions based on their fears. It is hardwired into our neurology. You could say it's like the first part of our brain, which is the R brain, the reptilian brain, where we had to survive, very much protective, whatever it is. We can resort back to that protective mechanism of doing nothing or playing small or hiding away, because it's easier to do that. Although very uncomfortable, that is what we resort to. And especially if we experience worries, fears, and doubts, we experience that unwillingness to do it, because it's part of the issue ultimately. But in times of change, in times of doing what you really want, to live your life and no longer spend all those units that we discussed, to spend all those consequences in our relationship and our friendships and our family or our children or our colleagues or our bosses or our employees or our customers or our future relationships, missed opportunities, our health, all of that lifetime of regret, you go, I'm going to decide on what is right. You see, when you decide on what is right, fear doesn't count. You're willing, you're ready, you're gonna, even though I feel the fear, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and figure out, be committed, be resourceful. You see, if you have that mindset, I don't believe the facts count. When your mindset's right, they don't count. You go all in, you discover the right solution for you. You never know, it could be right before you. It could be, right? But because we've had these blinkers on of the worry, looking through the spectrum of anxiety, fears, and doubts, we don't see it. But when you decide what is right for you and your future, or the comparison to all those consequences, you go, I'm willing and I will find a way. I will do what has to be done, because it is my birthright to know that I'm worthy, deserving enough. Where it be to have the abundance, the health, the relationships, the career progression, the business, even the ripple effects out into the world when it comes to our children or those that we serve in our community. Maybe it's how we want to be able to donate time or donate money. Where if you're like a practitioner of change, you're not serving people by not being the most authentic, powerful you when you have the skill set to do something. Playing small serves no one. So that is why we've got to be resourceful. We got to be dedicated, and we got to decide on what is right. Now, if that doesn't fuel you, if you write down all the consequences from the internal ones in the moment, but also the external future the future ones of what could happen, the past ones of the time consumption, all of those things and all that it affects people and the ripple effects based on the issues we have, if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will. But I believe when you get clear on those, get all those reasons, you will be so fueled to make the right decision for yourself, and you're willing to do whatever it takes. And to me, that is what makes us win in this. Anxiety does not have to control you. You can win over anxiety. You can actually allow yourself to overcome it and be profoundly confident. And here's the other thing. We talked about the consequences of what happens if we stay the same. But now let's consider the consequences of changing. what would it really mean to you to have that burden lifted from your shoulders? What would it mean to you to wake up every single day with self-certainty? What would it mean to you to have that deep sleep, knowing that tomorrow you have that meeting or that opportunity and you're so relaxed because you know it's going to go perfect. Your unconscious mind's on your side. Imagine that liberation. If you weigh up the two, the consequences of staying the same and the consequences, the liberation, the freedom, the inner peace, wholeness, contentment, there is no way that you would choose to stay the same. You will do what is right for you. So make the time to consider the consequences, the hidden ones that we're unaware of, that we don't pay attention to get the leverage to make the change, to find the reason. And also, on the counter, consider the consequences of changing. What's going to happen? When you know you're worthy, what's that going to give you? I'm going to guess confidence, certainty, drive, motivation, discipline, freedom. It's going to give you opportunities, it's going to give you new behaviors, new actions and reactions, the list is endless. That's going to be the fuel that we really need. We can't live in no man's land when we're really aware of the consequences of staying the same and the consequences of being the powerful you that knows that you're worthy. So I hope you've enjoyed this. And of course, look, I know it's hard to do it by yourself. And if you're driven, you're committed, and you are resourceful, you are decisive, deciding over fear, to decide on what is right, and you just need the expert to be able to show you how to get there, then you may go ahead and apply to be on my program. Now, you need to invest money and time to do this. It's fully customized to your unconscious mind. It is built for you if you're a right kind of individual who is professional and ready, committed. And on the time when you book a call with us, we'll get clear on exactly where you are, exactly where you want to be, what's getting in the way, and we'll come up with a customized plan for your needs. But only if we can solve it. If not, we'll point you to a different direction, because we only want to work with people that we like and that we can know that we can solve. And that's josephclough.info/talk. Find the expert that you need. Whether it's me or someone else, I don't care. What I care about is the consequences of staying the same and the amazing, beautiful opportunities of the consequences of having made the change of a lifetime. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you write this down. Write down the consequences, look at it, and make the decision that you truly desire. And with that, I look forward to speaking to you in a future episode. Many thanks and goodbye.